Hi! So, if you had Sky growing up, you probably never experienced this, but for those of us without Disney Channel, we experienced an era of mummy-themed shows on children's TV. There was quite a lot of them, but the three I remember most was the animated series of The Mummy, one where three mummies were brought back and had to save the world, and they rode motorbikes. The third and most important one was Tutenstein. So Tutenstein was about Tutankhamun, who was a mummy exhibit in the British Museum. And this girl called Cleo walked over to him one day, accidentally touched a scepter, and whoa, oh no, he's moving in there. And he comes out and he's a weird zombie mummy kind of hybrid. Here we now realise that Tutenstein is an amalgamation of the words Tutankhamun and Frankenstein, even though that is literally not how Frankenstein works. But I guess Tutenstein was more catchy than Tuten Zombie. This show is weird for a number of reasons, but perhaps the most glaringly obvious is the fact that Tutenstein stars a 10-year-old boy who died. This story literally stars a dead child, reminding children everywhere that one day too they will die, and it can happen anytime. And I know what you're thinking, oh, it's a kids show, they don't mention the death part that much. But that's where you're wrong, because the audience is reminded of Tutenstein's death every episode because it plays in the opening credits like Tutenstein's weird PTSD nightmare. I think my favourite thing about the opening credits is the funky music playing in the background, as though this is somehow comical. And you've got the people who are watching him die and kind of just face palming like, oh no, another child has fallen. We really should put up a gate. Anyway, time for lunch. We'll fill out HR reports later. Lol. I actually used to really love this show when I was like 7 or 8. I thought it was really good and really funny. But there's a lot that I actually do not remember at all. For instance, I always remembered Tutenstein being carefree and kind of goofy, but he is none of those things. When I rewatched it, I found that this child has the temperament of a really aggressive, angry 40-year-old man.
Oh, what troubles you, my master?
What makes you think I am troubled?
Oh, I don't know. Perhaps it's the sound of your wildly beating heart.
He who makes the Nile flow is visited by demons in his sleep, and you call it nothing?
I actually cannot believe children watch this. Like, they just saw that this little boy, who is the character they're meant to kind of relate to, has his heart stored in a jar and it beats in this jar, and they just kind of shrug it off like, yeah, that's cool, I'm cool with that. I'm not cool with that. Why are we cool with that? That is so horrifying. I know no one remembers this show, but with scenes like this I feel like we should. You know, like, only 90s kids remember going to trauma therapy after watching Tutenstein. Oh, and by the way, that clip I just showed you, that was Tutenstein's PTSD playing up, and he did have a nightmare about his death, which is the theme of that particular episode, in which we find that Tutenstein didn't die alone, but actually died sacrificing himself to save another child.
Go, Nepgot! Farewell, my friend!
I mean, if you're gonna have your child protagonist be dead, at least have them die saving another child who isn't famous enough to be brought back as a mummy in the future. And Yeah, in fairness, this show does teach you a lot about ancient Egypt. The main conflict of this show usually comes from Tutenstein being really impatient or selfish because he's used to living a pharaoh's life, and Cleo, the main character, is very down to earth and just doesn't want to put up with it. But what they try and do every episode is interact with like a magical object or an Egyptian god, and there's always some weird twist. So this one time, Tutenstein asked an Egyptian god to turn him human again, but the Egyptian god was annoyed by him being too impatient, so she gave him the scroll and told him to do it himself. He was too impatient to read the instructions, and the spell backfired. Cleo got turned into a skeleton. He was a real boy, but then at the end he decided to be unselfish and reverse the spell. And the episode ends on a really grim note, where we find that after ruining the spell, Tutenstein can never be a human again and is forced to live out the rest of his existence as a half mummy, half zombie creature that is not allowed outside the museum where his exhibit is.
I did not even feel the warmth of the sun on my skin, the cool grass between my toes.
Sire, you did get to go swimming.
So, you know, fun for the whole family! But the thing is, the show ran for 3 seasons, and the reason it was able to do that is because Tutenstein never really fixed any of his flaws. In each episode, he learned not to be selfish or spoiled and realised that other people's opinions and thoughts matter too. And then, by the time the next episode started, he'd forgotten those lessons and restarted the process again. Which I guess is fine. Like, I'm not expecting a mass amount of character development from a show called Tutenstein, but some would be nice. And I know what you're thinking, how did Tutenstein end? What great finale could have finished a show like this? And the answer is that while it ended, there was never kind of a finale vibe. So the episode starts with Tutenstein and Cleo playing Senet, which is a real-life ancient Egyptian board game. Historians have forever been trying to figure out the rules and how it's played. And then Cleo says, "Okay, bye, gonna go see my friend." Tutenstein gets extremely jealous, because as we've discussed before, the relationship is extremely codependent. And so he summons the Eye of Osiris to go spy on her. This eye is literally just a giant eye with wings on it, you know, for comic purposes. Tutenstein watches her, and that's where the conflict starts, because she realises Tutenstein's been spying on her and gets really mad and starts hanging out with the friend more than Tutenstein. But there's something weird about this friend. She meets up with this girl, and we find out her name is something weird and forgettable and obviously fake sounding, like Beatrice. And they've gone shopping, and Cleo points to like a video game store, and she asks the girl, "Hey, do you like video games?" And Beatrice replies that she prefers board games, which, you know, is fine, those people exist. But then she says that she prefers games like Senet that are really, really old, specifically ancient Egyptian board games. And already alarm bells are ringing in my head anyway. Like, I know this is a kids show, but if you say your favourite board game is a board game that no one has played or know the rules to for thousands and thousands of years, then, you know, you're a shifty character. And then we get the reveal as they're walking out of a shop that the girl's reflection is actually like a bull. Like, she looks in the mirror and then a bull's kind of staring back at her. It's all very creepy and sinister. As it turns out, Cleo and the weird ancient Egypt fangirl bull lady go to school together, and they're sitting at their desks and they're making masks for a class project. And then after class, the girl goes to her locker and starts talking to this weird green voice. It's just a green light, and we hear this very deep voice, and we find out that the girl is looking to befriend Cleo to get Tutenstein's scepter, and also has red teeth and fangs, as well as being a bull. It's all very confusing. But what is more confusing is the fact that she got enrolled at this school somehow. I understand demons morphing into teenage girls, but what I don't understand is those demons enrolling themselves in a high school, because there's all sort of checks. You can't just enroll yourself into a school. You need a parent or guardian to sign you in. So all I can think is that weird sinister voice, who later we find out is a skeleton, enrolled this girl into school and just explained that he had a weird skin condition or something. Sorry, my father looks like a skeleton. He has really bad eczema. Also, he has holes for eyes. Just don't mention it because he's very self-conscious about it. And then when the bull demon girl enrolled in school, did she have to find a social circle so she didn't look too much like a loner or a weirdo? Did she have to choose between popularity and true friends? I want to see the episode of Tutenstein that deals with this girl moving up the social ladder, or at least just navigating her way through a high school after being dead for 2,000 years. Like, did she join any clubs to seem like a more well-rounded teenager? Did she join the drama club? Is she going to be in this high school's production of Macbeth? Will she play one of the witches? No. Anyway, the girl has a bit of a crisis because she hasn't finished her mask yet. But Cleo is a nice person in this episode. So Cleo says she can come back to mine and we can make masks together. And we find out that the mask this girl is making is just her reflection. She's making a bull demon as a mask for herself, while she is trying to pretend to not be a bull demon. Because I guess the best disguise is to disguise as the thing that you are underneath the initial disguise. Cleo's mask is a butterfly, if you're wondering. So it's not even like an ancient Egyptian theme where they have to design ancient Egyptian masks. This bull disguised as a teenage girl picked a mask that would reveal herself to be a bull, because I guess she thought Cleo would be getting it by this point, and she really isn't. And Cleo still doesn't get it, so the girl just transforms into a bull and says, "This is me." Yeah, so the bull speaks like a 40-year-old smoker. And I don't understand why the girl went back to Cleo's house, presumably talked to her mum, presumably had dinner at her house, and then went upstairs and made and finished a mask before revealing herself to be a bull demon. Was she just really into the mask? Did she want to make it and show her fake skeleton father, "I made this specially for the evil ancient Egyptian Halloween party. I'm dressed as myself because it's the thing that scares me the most in this world"? I actually really enjoyed this show as a kid, and I still kind of like it. It's a lot different from what I remember, but you know, there's magic, there's ancient Egypt, there's child murder, so you know, what's not to love?